Discover the incredible journey. 7 amazing transformations after the Trojan War revealed. Sarah Donovan stood in the dim light of her father's old study, a musty cloud clinging to the air like her growing anxiety. Her fingers brushed over the wooden desk, splintered and marked by years of use, each scratch telling stories of lessons learned and forgotten. What legacy was left behind now that her father was gone? And how could she stand before her own class each day pretending to wield knowledge while drowning in self-doubt? She had put her family first, always. And now, at 35, she felt trapped beneath generations of expectation, yet what dream did she have of her own? As she rummaged through faded photographs and dusty books, guilt tangled with a flicker of ambition in her chest. Perhaps she wasn't just meant to care for the past. She longed to honor it, transform that crumbling relic of a home into something more, something alive. But could she do it? The mere thought of dedicating her life to a house felt like an absurdity, a wild idea the town and her own family might dismiss. The letter she found could change everything. Yet, as she reread the heartfelt ink, doubt washed over her. Did she truly have the strength to resurrect the stories buried in the foundation? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her determination twisted as she faced the town council meeting. Mr. Jennings, the retired professor, had offered insight, but what weight did her years of sacrifice hold against the skepticism in the crowd? The stare of familiar faces changed to bewilderment when she mentioned her vision of turning the home into a museum. Jeers murmured through clenched jaws, hardened by the very things she wanted to bring light to. Historic tales she unearthed felt too significant to deny a proud heritage of people who overcame just like her family, but could they swallow the truths she wrestled with? By the time she stepped up to speak, unsteady resolve coursed through her. Yet the whispers grew louder, each syllable a sharp thorn that pricked at her confidence. What if they saw her ideas as foolhardy? Her heart began to race, every pulse fueled by a fight-or-flight instinct. The remnants of her father's approval echoed in the walls around her. Did they question her loyalty as she struggled to reconcile her aspirations with their demands? The electric tension buzzed around her like a veil, friends turning into critics, history morphing into a battleground. Just as she opened her mouth to reach for her purpose, a jagged edge of fear clamped around her throat. What would happen if she fell short? As she stood before them, an uncertain heroine gazing into the tempest, the stories swirling inside her felt almost alive. But could she conjure the courage to unleash them? The moment hung in silence, pregnant with expectation. Sarah's heart raced, thunderous in her ears as her breath caught. She focused on the faces, familiar yet distant, each shadow a testimony of the past. How had they become her adversaries? She inhaled deeply, steadying herself as the weight of their doubts threatened to crush her resolve. This was it, the turning point. "Thank you for your time," she started, the tremor in her voice barely masked by her courage. One glance at her father's portrait across the room fueled a flicker of strength. "I want to honor the legacy of our history not as a mere collection of dusty artifacts, but as a vibrant part of our community's future." The murmurs faded for a moment, replaced by a heavy stillness that felt inviting yet intimidating. Seizing the moment, she pressed on. "This house has seen generations, just like all of us. The stories woven into these walls can inspire, teach, and serve as a beacon of our resilience. Imagine hosting school trips, workshops, even cultural events. It can become a living testament to who we are and where we come from." As Sarah spoke, clarity washed over her, each word gaining substance as it flowed from her heart. She wasn't just defending a dream. She was inviting them to share in a vision filled with potential. Yet her eyes caught the disapproving glare of Miss Turner, the town's leading historian, who seemed anchored to the past with a vice-like grip. In that moment, Sarah felt a wave of vulnerability. What if Miss Turner was right? What if her vision was naive? The shadows of uncertainty loomed larger, and for a second, she faltered. But remembering her father's letter, the guiding light that had led her to confront this moment, she pushed aside doubt. I know this place may symbolize tradition to some, a stagnant relic to others, she said, the quiet intensity of her voice cutting through the crowd. But what if we transformed it, adapted it? I believe we can breathe new life into our history and create something powerful for generations to come. As she concluded, a silence enveloped the room, laden with the weight of her words. Sarah felt invigorated but unsure of whether they would accept her invitation. The council members exchanged glances, judgment, intrigue, acceptance, or rejection all swirled in the air like autumn leaves caught in a gust. A hand rose hesitantly. It belonged to Mr. Jennings, the retired professor who had supported her from the start. I think we owe it to ourselves to explore this idea. His statement seemed to land softly but solidly, a potential ally emerging amid the tension. Yet Miss Turner spoke next, her voice slicing through the room. And what if it fails? What if we lose what little respect we have left for the past? Fingers clenched at her sides, Sarah felt anger welling. Did she truly have to battle this stigma? This wasn't just about her anymore. It transcended personal ambition. It was for everyone who had come before her, everyone who would follow. I refuse to let fear dictate our future, she firmly stated, locking eyes with the council chair. We can choose to preserve our identity without suffocating our evolution. The air turned thick, anticipation clinging to the silence. In that charged moment, Sarah recognized a pivotal truth within her, a talent for persuasion she'd long ignored, a gift of rallying support. The room was a crucible now, and she stood at the epicenter, a catalyst for change. The tension ballooned, feet shifted restlessly, and breaths quickened. Would the council embrace her transformative vision, or would they let it slip away into the echoes of history? Ms. Donovan, the chair finally broke the silence. We need more than just passion to back you. We might need a formal proposal, and just like that, an abyss of possibility opened before her. A daunting task ahead, but now Sarah could see it clearly. She wouldn't just honor her father's legacy. She would carve out her OW as the weight of the challenge settled in. She felt invigorated, a spark igniting inside her. But deep down, a resounding question loomed. Was she ready to confront the true demands of her ambition, and what sacrifices would that entail? The whisper of doubt still lingered, and she steeled herself. It was time to step beyond the past into the uncertainty of a brave new narrative. What lay ahead could change everything, not just for her, but for the community steeped in tales yet to be told. The next morning arrived with a renewed intensity. Sarah stared at the reflection in the mirror, the weight of her decision settling into the lines of her face. The council's tentative acceptance of her proposal had sparked a fire within her that burned brighter with every passing hour. But the reality was unmistakable. She needed a plan, a formal proposal that would not only capture their attention but dismantle the doubts echoing in the minds of those who stood against her. Her fingers tapped rhythmically against the table, thoughts spiraling as she began to outline what the proposal could entail. Each point was a battle strategy, a calculated move in an ongoing chess match. What would it take to persuade skeptics like Miss Turner? What evidence could demonstrate that evolution and tradition were not mutually exclusive? As she crafted her vision, she reduced the abstract idea of transformation into concrete steps. It opened the floodgates of creativity. Workshops could fuse old crafts with modern techniques, engaging the community in ways that honored their heritage while embracing the present. Schools would find purpose in the stories that surged through the walls of the house, and tourists might discover a renewed interest, a revitalization of history rather than a stale preservation. But it was one thing to write these ideas. It was another to confront the lingering specters of doubt. Sarah's thoughts spiraled again. Would her boldness alienate those she needed to rally around her? As the anxiety climbed, she sat back, grappling with her insecurities. It felt like standing on a precipice, with every voice of dissent whispering caution in her ear. With a deep breath, she decided to face the heart of her fears rather than skirt around them. A few hours later, she found herself standing outside the front door of Miss Turner's stately home. Each step felt heavier than the last, yet something deep within pulled her forward. This was a direct confrontation, a moment where she could either solidify connections or diminish them entirely. The door swung open, revealing a woman whose stature seemed as formidable as her reputation. There was no warmth in her expression, but the challenge loomed invitingly. Sarah recognized this could be an opportunity to shift the narrative not just of the house, but of her relationship with Miss Turner. "I wanted to talk," she began, choosing her words with care, "about the proposal I will present to the council. Can we discuss it?" Miss Turner stared, the silence stretching between them like a taut string ready to snap. "What makes you think I would want to aid in your transformation when I believe in honoring our past?" The fury within Sarah flared, but she tempered it. "Because I believe that we both share an underlying love for this history. It shapes us, but it shouldn't hold us hostage." Miss Turner's eyes narrowed, calculating. "You think your youthful ambition can reshape a legacy that has lasted generations?" "We both share that legacy," Sarah pressed, her voice unyielding. "We can protect it and allow it to grow. I'm asking for your guidance, not your judgment. Your wisdom would be invaluable." For a fleeting moment, Sarah saw a flicker of uncertainty in Miss Turner's resolute demeanor. But then it vanished. And what if your vision ends in failure? What if it proves to be a mistake? A wry smile crept over Sarah's lips as she found her voice steadying. What if it doesn't? What if we find a way to breathe life back into this community together? A silence hung in the air, thick with expectation. Neither of them could yet foresee the real transformation that lay ahead, not just for the house, but for their mutual understanding of history and intention. As Sarah turned to leave, she knew this was not the end but rather the beginning of a deeper struggle. Slowly, momentum was building, a monumental shift between past and future hinging on her ability to persuade. The challenge seemed overwhelming, but so was her resolve to redefine the parameters of what they both believed. But would Miss Turner truly engage, or would she remain an unfaltering obstacle? As this question replayed in her mind, Sarah's determination solidified. She had begun a journey far more complicated than she envisioned, and now, the battle for the narrative had just begun. The days that followed were a blur of activity and uncertainty. Sarah immersed herself in research, poring over old documents and histories of the house while drafting proposals. Each new discovery reignited her passion and fueled her conviction that monumental change was possible. Yet, with every flicker of excitement, the specter of Miss Turner's skepticism loomed large in her mind. One evening, while reviewing the town's historical archives, Sarah stumbled across a collection of letters written by the house's original inhabitants. The intimate nature of their correspondence struck a chord in her. It was a raw reflection of their hopes, dreams, and struggles. This revelation sparked an idea: what if she could weave these narratives into her proposal? By grounding her vision in the authentic voices of the past, she might forge a connection that even Miss Turner could appreciate. Empowered by this new direction, Sarah began to outline how she could present the letters at the council meeting, using them as a vivid backdrop to her proposals for workshops and community engagements. She envisioned evenings where these stories would be shared, inviting participants to explore their own connections to history while embracing modern adaptation. However, the glow of inspiration was often dimmed by self-doubt. Late at night, she would find herself staring at her drafts, questioning if she was overstepping bounds. Was she really equipped to honor these stories? Could her ambition truly resonate with both the past and the future? Each question gripped her with cold fingers of anxiety. To counter these fears, she sought moments of clarity through meditation. Sitting in her small, sunlit living room, she breathed deeply, trying to silence the cacophony of doubts that plagued her mind. During one of these sessions, the contrast hit her vividly. She felt like an artist preparing to unveil a masterpiece, yet she could only see the flaws in her canvas. This realization struck her: her fear of failure was as palpable as her desire for success. Pushing through her apprehensions, she decided to take a step towards Miss Turner again. The confrontation had hung heavy in her thoughts since their last meeting, and she could no longer ignore it. If she intended to seduce the council with her ideas, she needed to ensure Miss Turner didn't stand opposed as an unyielding force. The following afternoon, Sarah approached Miss Turner's home once more, armed not just with her aspirations, but with the stories of the past, the letters that had ignited her passion. This time, however, she wouldn't simply present a proposal. She would engage in dialogue. She understood that this was not only a test of her vision but also a chance to redefine her relationship with Miss Turner. As she knocked, her heart raced. When the door opened, Miss Turner's towering presence was as imposing as ever. "Back again?" she inquired, with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "This time, I brought something to share," Sarah replied, her voice steadied by resolve. She held out a few of the letters, vivid narratives emanating an essence nearly palpable. Miss Turner scrutinized her, a challenge lingering in her gaze. "You think those will sway me? They connect us to the very foundation of this space," Sarah insisted, her conviction unwavering. "These voices carry the essence of our history. I want to honor them by merging their spirit with the community's future." The moments that passed were heavy with potential, both their futures hanging in the balance. Would Miss Turner's defenses lower, allowing Sarah's passion to penetrate the fortress of doubt? As Miss Turner began to skim through the letters, the tension swirled. Sarah could see the flicker of intrigue in her eyes, but would it be enough to shift the tide? Just then, a realization struck Sarah. It wasn't merely a proposal she was trying to craft, it was an invitation to understand and respect the complexities of tradition while envisioning a shared future. The path ahead was tangled, with doubts lying in wait. Would Miss Turner rise to the occasion, or would their conflict deepen? The stakes climbed as a profound silence settled between them, leading Sarah to wonder if she had truly created a bridge or merely erected another barrier. Would the history of the house allow her to craft a new legacy, or would she remain forever at odds with its guardian? As the silence lingered in the air, Sarah internally braced herself for Miss Turner's response. Her mind raced with the potential outcomes. Was the flicker of intrigue in Miss Turner's gaze a genuine shift, or merely a veneer masking her skepticism? With every passing second, her heart thudded more heavily, amplifying her doubts. The years of determination surged within her, battling against the whirlpool of anxiety threatening to pull her under. "These letters," Miss Turner began, her fingers lightly tracing the yellowed paper. "They're beautiful. But beautiful words alone don't change anything." The dismissal hit Sarah hard, yet an unexpected resolve flickered within her. "I'm not just asking for a change in physical structure, Miss Turner. I see an opportunity for revitalization, a way to blend the historical significance of this house with its future." Miss Turner studied her with a penetrating gaze. "You think what you're proposing can resonate with the community? If the council desires change, they might settle for flashy events devoid of any richness. You believe a few letters can anchor a movement?" Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The challenge was both daunting and illuminating. This wouldn't just be about her ideas but a test of authenticity. "It's not only about the letters, Miss Turner. It's about the connections we can forge. I want to harness that rich history and create a mosaic of experiences." "Easier said than done," she replied, her tone still skeptical. Yet, there was an unmistakable shift behind her defenses. The realization sparked a new idea in Sarah. She took a breath, grounding herself in the moment. "Let me show you just how effective these stories can be. If you'll allow me, I'd like to organize a small gathering, just a few individuals who cherish the house. We can share these letters and explore the narratives behind them. You may see the potential for engagement that goes beyond mere proposals." Miss Turner regarded her carefully, measuring the sincerity in Sarah's eyes. "You're asking for more than just my approval. You want my collaboration." The weight of Miss Turner's acknowledgement hung between them, filling the air with an invigorating tension. If Miss Turner could be swayed to participate, it could transform their dynamic entirely. Sarah seized the moment, allowing parts of her vision to unravel with excitement. "Conditioned on allowing me to present at the next meeting, I could use your expertise in cultivating relevant discussions. Together, we could inspire change rooted in history." Collaboration. Ms. Turner's brow furrowed, an array of emotions flickering across her face. Facing potential co-ownership of this endeavor elicited a swirl of anticipation and fear in Sarah. The prospect was daunting. What if Ms. Turner's guarded nature could dissolve her vision into reality or destroy it in the process? A moment passed, then a wry smile crept onto Ms. Turner's face, a hint of vulnerability creeping through her usual stoicism. You're audacious, I'll give you that. But this will not be easy, and it will demand more than just your enthusiasm. It's not merely about storytelling. It's about genuine connection, commitment, and facing the inevitable consequences of bringing up the past. Sarah felt a wave of relief and apprehension wash over her. I'm ready to face whatever it takes, but I'll need your guidance. Together, we can create something transformative. Turning the letters over in her hands brought Miss Turner into an imaginative realm. Sarah could scarcely recognize her armor momentarily slipping. But a lingering doubt loomed. They were still worlds apart. Time stretched as Sarah remained acutely aware of their differing motives, bound by an invisible tension. With renewed determination, the conversation shifted their partnership into uncharted territory. Would Miss Turner fully commit? Or would her fears overshadow the possibility of progress? Just as Sarah began visualizing the profound impact they could achieve, a small, mutual understanding ignited a fragile strand of hope woven amidst the uncertainty. Yet, as the evening wore on, Sarah realized that in seizing this opportunity for collaboration, she would need to confront her own vulnerabilities. What would unfold if opening up to Miss Turner revealed hidden pasts or buried fears within her own journey? The truth became a stepping stone toward evolution, a cryptic promise of transformation. As she stepped away from the encounter, Sarah carried both the thrill of possibility and the heavy weight of anxiety. Embracing this new direction would dictate their fates. Would she manage to honor both the past and the future? Or would the delicate bridge she began constructing begin to crumble under pressure? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that danced around Sarah as she walked home. Each step weighed heavily with the implications of her conversation with Miss Turner. While she felt a surge of hope, apprehension tugged at her thoughts, urging caution. The prospect of collaboration loomed larger than any challenge she had faced before, and with it came the realization that this was a pivotal moment in her personal growth. Her mind churned with possibilities as she replayed the discussion over and over. The concept of storytelling as a tool for connection ignited a fire in her. She recognized that she was not merely advocating for change. She was stepping into the role of a leader, a facilitator of voices previously unheard. But what if those voices included her own insecurities? As she crossed the threshold into her home, the familiar clutter of her workspace beckoned. Books piled high, letters scattered across the table, remnants of her initial efforts filled with fervor yet lacking clarity. Each piece resonated with disbelief and possibility, leaving her to confront the chasm between ambition and execution. In that moment of stillness, she dug through the chaos, searching for clarity. The letters, she realized, were more than relics of the past. They were a mirror of her own story, a reminder of vulnerabilities she often marred in self-doubt. What if she used them as a lens to illuminate her journey, to weave her experiences into conversations? Suddenly, the gathering started to form in her mind not just as an idea, but as a necessary confrontation with all aspects of her narrative, the bright and the dimly lit. She began to formulate her plan. An intimate gathering would necessitate not only arrangement but also intention. Who would she invite? Voices from her past and present floated like scattered thoughts in her mind. Would they understand what she hoped to achieve? The thrill of the unknown fueled her determination. People needed to see that the house was not just a collection of bricks and wood but a living story spanning generations. Sarah's resolve solidified. She needed participants willing to dive deep, to share their histories and intertwine them with the heart of the letters. Building this bridge would require not just bravery but authenticity. She would encourage others to unveil their truths, all the while exploring her own fears and forging deeper connections. The clock ticked steadily, urging her to act. She paused to reflect on Ms. Turner's warning about commitment and genuine connection. The prospect intimidated her, Yet it was precisely that fear that made the opportunity feel significant. What genuine connections had she forged in her life? Were they mere acquaintances, or had she built ties that could withstand scrutiny? The flicker of determination reignited within her as she grabbed a pen and a fresh notebook. She would draft an invitation, framing the gathering as a safe space for exploration and healing. The purpose wouldn't just be to share. It would be to challenge the status quo, confront shared fears, and draw on the courage it would take to harness their collective stories. As she honed her invitation, a nagging thought tugged at her. What if a hidden truth lay in her own past that she hadn't yet confronted? What if unearthing those buried memories altered her understanding of her own journey? The questions loomed, expanding with the enormity of what lay ahead. By the time Sarah put the pen down, the invitation was an embodiment of her evolving self, a commitment not only to her vision but to the gathering of connections that would build upon it. She felt a small surge of power, but lingering apprehension nagged at the edges of her mind. With an email drafted and ready to send, she felt the weight return, a reminder that with every step toward light, shadows lingered in the corners. Would this journey uncover parts of her she had hidden away? As she hit the send button, Sarah felt the thrill of uncertainty course through her veins. The moment was decisive, a testing ground for her personal evolution. As the door to possibility creaked open, another whisper beckoned. How would those she invited perceive the vulnerability she was about to expose? Would they rise to the occasion or shy away from the depths that lay within the letters she so passionately wished to share? The morning sun rose with a brightness that felt almost taunting as Sarah sat at her kitchen table, her mind still swirling with the weight of the previous night's decision. She sipped her coffee, each sip serving as both a comfort and a reminder of the gathering she was setting in motion. Would anyone respond to her invitation? Would they even care to engage with the pieces of her story she aimed to weave together? As she reflected, the multitude of doubts started to shape themselves into questions that clawed at her resolve. She considered the motivations of those she had invited. What if they were uninterested or, worse, judgmental? The thought of exposing herself to their scrutiny unnerved her. Yet, she also realized this was an opportunity not only for them to share but for her to confront her own past. The letters lay nearby, like an open book whispering fragments of her history. Each one carried an untold story, each folded page holding her youthful aspirations and failures. As the anticipation of the gathering grew, she felt a need to engage with these remnants more deliberately. They could serve as her anchor in planning the event. How could she transform these remnants into a catalyst for vulnerability? She picked up one of the letters, the ink faded but still legible. Written during her college years, it spoke of dreams, doubts, and the pain of unfulfilled expectations. Her hands trembled slightly as she read, recognizing how her aspirations had shifted since then. Yet the essence of who she was remained intact. What power lay in embracing discomfort? Could she use her own narrative to invite others to do the same? The thought ignited a spark deep within her. It wasn't just about sharing stories. It was about leading by example, exposing her uncertainties as a bridge for others to cross. In a moment of clarity, she pulled out a notebook and began jotting down themes she wanted to address: fear, hope, resilience. Each word resonated with her current state of mind, evolving her understanding of the gathering's intent. Building a network of genuine connection required layers of honesty that she now felt equipped to dig into, not just about others' experiences, but also her own. Yet, lurking beneath this excitement, a question remained. Was she truly ready to unveil her vulnerabilities? The thought made her pulse quicken. As a leader, she envisioned creating an atmosphere rich with empathy and understanding. But how could she facilitate that when her own feelings remained intertwined with trepidation? Pelting herself with strategies, she devised a plan to share snippets of her own letters during the gathering, choosing portions that reflected her growth, her trials, and the lessons she had learned. This would serve as a reminder that everyone carries burdens, and that sharing those burdens collectively could transform pain into empowerment. The more she considered her own preparation, the more she felt the weight of expectations. What if they saw her unease and dismissed her efforts? She shook her head, determined to silence the inner critic. After all, growth could only flourish with a foundation of honesty. That as the day drew to a close, she felt both anticipation and dread. On one hand, the possibility of transformation glimmered ahead. On the other, the reality of her self-doubt loomed large. She was about to embark on a journey that would demand courage, an essential quality needed not just to foster others' narratives but also to revise her own. Feeling the urgency pulse through her, she reached for her phone, typing out a reminder to herself. Every moment of vulnerability is a testament to strength. And with that, a wave of determination swept over her. The journey of self-discovery and connection was in sync. Not for the faint-hearted, but a venture she could no longer avoid. What awaited her in the faces of her invited guests? As the shadows of the evening settled around her, the burning question remained. How deeply would she delve into her own past, and what revelations would come to light? Sarah had never been one to shy away from challenges. Yet here she was, a whirlwind of anxiety and anticipation swirling in her chest. The evening approached with an oppressive weight that settled over her. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown to revelation, perhaps vulnerability, or even judgment. In the quiet hours before her guests arrived, she turned her focus back to the letters. Each one now represented not just remnants of her life, but also stepping stones in her emotional journey. She felt an undeniable connection to the person who had penned those thoughts, full of hope and despair, a bridge that linked her past self to this present moment of determination. Could she fully embrace that history and share it with others? Grabbing a pen, she began drafting portions of her story to accompany the snippets from her letters. This synthesis was different. It no longer felt like a mere confession but a structured narrative. Each line she wrote was a declaration of her readiness to reveal not just the highlights but also the struggles that shaped her. A connection began to brew between her aspirations to lead others and the discomfort she felt in her own skin. What if this gathering turned into a reflection of her fears rather than the connection she envisioned? She wrestled with these thoughts, pacing across her living room. The walls felt closer, as if they were witnesses to her internal monologue, pressing her to confront what she wished to share. At that moment, a realization struck her. This gathering wouldn't simply be a space for sharing stories. It would serve as a battleground for her own collapse and rise. There lay tremendous power in the act of revealing imperfections. Others might find solace in her words, just as she sought solace in theirs. This revelation ignited a spark. The choice had been laid bare before her, not between hiding and revealing, but between fear and the potential for growth. A resolute determination took hold as she transformed her anxiety into focus. She recorded poignant moments from her letters that aligned with the themes she'd mapped out. The struggles encapsulated by fear and stirred by hope. The vulnerability she felt flipped from something to dread into a source of empowerment. As she seized this moment, her phone vibrated, startling her back into the present. Texts from her friends began trickling in, confirming their attendance. Each reply buoyed her spirits, reaffirming that she was not alone in this endeavor. Yet still, an echo of doubt bounced around her mind. Would they see through her facade? Just as she began to entertain these concerns, another thought broke through, challenging her to redefine those moments. What if the audience to her journey would not become critics but allies? What if they shared their own burdens? The anticipation grew. This was not her event alone but the beginning of something larger. With renewed vigor, Sarah stood a little taller, the weight within her dissolving into clarity. The clock was ticking down to the time of reckoning, quite literally and metaphorically, but it felt different now. The doorbell rang, and her heart raced. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door, ready to invite others into not just her story, but within the shared human experience. As she faced her gathered friends, a stirring thought shaped itself within. She was about to find out if her fears were final barriers or merely stepping stones leading toward a deeper understanding. But one lingering question echoed in her mind: would those who stepped inside feel emboldened enough to confront their own truths alongside her? As Sarah welcomed her friends into her living room, an unexpected warmth surged through her. The familiar sounds of laughter and chatter began to envelop her, and for a moment, the weight of anticipation lifted, replaced by the reality of shared experience. She had prepared for this night meticulously, her heart beating in rhythm with the conversations unfurling around her. Yet, the impending exposure remained, nagging at her resolve as each friend found a seat. Sarah caught snippets of their casual exchanges, laughter rising and falling like the tide. It was a stark reminder of the last time they had gathered. Then, she felt surrounded by companionship but shied away from authentic connection. Tonight, however, she sensed a vital shift. This wasn't just her moment, but a collective unfolding of truths. Tension crested within her when she finally spoke up, calling for attention. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice slightly wavering. Silencing her internal critic, she pressed on. "I've been reflecting a lot lately on our journeys and the things we carry with us." The initial gaze of curiosity from her friends merged with the comfort of familiarity that they had built over the years. One particular friend, Emily, leaned in, setting the ambience. "I'm excited to hear more. Last time, you hinted at something big brewing in you." There was implicit trust in her encouragement, prompting Sarah to delve deeper. With a steadying breath, Sarah began to share excerpts from her letters. Each line marked a monumental moment in her journey, a brushstroke on the canvas of vulnerability. She spoke of fear, its suffocating grip, yet its paradoxical power to propel one forward. The room absorbed her story like a sponge, each friend's nod or smile acting as a reassuring anchor. Her friends listened intently, and that realization ignited a fire within her. Here, surrounded by an audience not of judgment but of understanding, she felt the fissures of doubt begin to mend. She described how every setback had become a lesson, every moment of shame a quiet teacher. The more she revealed, the more she recognized the weight of shared narratives. Yet, as she approached a particularly raw moment, her struggles with self-doubt and anxiety, she hesitated. What if this honesty revealed too much? Would they still see her as their strong-hearted friend, or would they wheel away, burdened by the weight of her truth? Flashes of uncertainty momentarily clouded her conviction, but she expelled them, channeling the energy into resilience as she fought through her inner storm. She sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a resonance of empathy. One by one, her friends began to share their own struggles. Each confession and hesitation became a testament to the power of vulnerability. What had initially felt like an isolated journey unveiled itself as a universal struggle. The atmosphere shifted. Each exchange sparked deeper connections, as laughter mixed with solemn understanding. Sarah felt her heart swell with hope and empowerment. She had not merely shared her story. She had ignited discussions that ventured beyond her own battlefield, each friend confronting their inner conflicts. But a lingering question remained: could she embrace this newfound connection? Would she be able to continue navigating through honesty in her everyday life, not just within the safety of this circle? The courage she had summoned for this night loomed like an invisible weight on her shoulders as the evening wore on. She glanced at her friends, grateful yet anxious, wondering if theirs was a fleeting encounter or the start of a profound shared evolution. Could they reach out to one another in times that demanded authenticity? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, a realization that her journey was far from over. With newfound determination, she recognized that true growth comes from sustaining this dialogue, making it a regular practice rather than an exceptional moment. As they laughed and reassured one another, Sarah held on to that newfound conviction. What lay ahead was a commitment to ongoing dialogue, a path beckoning her to explore deeper dimensions of herself. And in that commitment, she felt the pulse of uncertainty thrumming anew. What paths would she forge as this intimate community expanded? With this stirred anticipation nestled in her heart, she subtly acknowledged that the journey had only just begun. Days turned into weeks as Sarah navigated the delicate landscape forged by her newfound commitment to vulnerability and connection. The gathering had ignited a passion within her to transform not only the historical house she cherished but also her own internal world. Each encounter with her friends became a stepping stone in cultivating a professional and personal narrative she never dared to imagine before. With the council meeting approaching, Sarah embraced the task ahead with renewed enthusiasm. Not only had she gathered stories from her community, but she also learned how her own experiences reflected the shared struggles of many. It was clear now, she was not just an advocate for the house's legacy. She was a catalyst for the collective healing of her peers, a bridge connecting their diverse paths through dialogue rooted in authenticity. As the council convened, the tension in the room was palpable. This time, however, Sarah exuded a solid confidence she had previously lacked. She approached the podium with a clarity of purpose, fueled by her internal growth and the voices of her friends echoing in her mind. Every letter, every story, formed an unshakable foundation for her vision. "Thank you for allowing me this opportunity," she began, her voice steady and unwavering. "Today, I stand not just for myself, but as a voice for our community and its history, intertwining our past and future." She opened with heartfelt excerpts from the letters, anchoring her vision in the tangible, lived experiences of those who once walked the halls of her family's home. Sarah watched as faces around the room shifted from skepticism to tentative acknowledgement, intrigued by how her narrative began weaving them all together. "Imagine," she continued, her enthusiasm surging, "a space where stories both old and new can come together. We can create interactive workshops rooted in our history, allowing generations to connect, learn, and grow. This isn't merely about preservation. It's about vibrancy and evolution." The murmurs that had often accompanied her proposals faded into whispers of excitement. A glint of recognition flickered in the eyes of Mr. Jennings, while even Ms. Turner appeared contemplative, her features softening as she visibly wrestled with the possibility of collaboration, a far cry from her previous resistance. "Tonight, I invite all of you to become part of this narrative transformation," Sarah concluded. "Let us redefine what our history means and how it can empower our present." As silence enveloped the room, Sarah sensed a shift in energy. The atmosphere transformed from resistance into invitation. With Mr. Jennings' support, the council members rallied together. The proposal was not only accepted but celebrated, and suddenly, it felt tangible, the possibility of change now concrete. Weeks later, as the museum's South grand opening drew close, Sarah stood amid the vibrant bustle of people engaging with interactive displays, sharing stories of their own connectedness to the house. She reveled in this celebration, feeling profound satisfaction not only in the creation of a space that honored the past but also in how it invited conversation and connection. Beyond the eventual accolades from the town and the press, the real transformation lay within her. Gone were the chains of self-doubt. Instead, Sarah exemplified confidence and competence as her voice resonated with strength. She no longer merely existed within the shadows of expectation but thrived as a recognized leader in her community. Emboldened by every interaction, realization washed over her. She had forged her own legacy, one crafted through storytelling and shared experience. The tapestry of lives intertwined through the museum's vision was her true achievement, a living tribute to history, empowerment, and personal growth. Standing at the entrance, she felt the warmth of recognition wrap around her, everyone exchanging stories, laughter echoing through the halls. This was more than a building. This was a movement of reflection and connection. As Sarah marveled at this extraordinary reality, she understood one crucial truth. Her journey had just taken flight, and she was ready to embrace every twist ahead, no longer shackled by doubt but driven by purpose. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.